Beautiful football by George Best.
Best was arrested and taken by Manchester police just after 2 o'clock this morning.
Best back in the pub and back in the papers, well and truly off the wagon.
It's all behind me now.
He's not good, but he's fighting.
George Best once said, "Pele calling me the world's greatest footballer is the ultimate salute to my life." But the salutes would soon turn to sadness as gossip columns around the world cover the mighty fall of a player that many still consider one of the greatest dribblers in the sport's history. Like any good story, you should start at the beginning. Unless it's Marvel's Captain America: The First Avenger, where you're best starting about a third of the way through. Born 1946 in Northern Ireland, a region known less for football and more for their stunning golf links. Okay. George Best is brought up Presbyterian by his two loving parents, Anne and Dick Best. Fun cautionary tale regarding Dick Best. If you're ever researching George Best for a soccer story, do not enter his father's name into a Google image search on your wife's iPad, because you have a lot of explaining to do. To those who know Anne Best best, she's a lovely, soft-spoken mother who encourages her children to be kind and respectful to all, including animals. Best's father, Dick Best, it's just too dangerous. You're on your own if you want his backstory. As a youth, George is already showing quick glimpses of spectacular footwork, goal-scoring ability, and exceptional speed, which will ultimately define his early professional career. At 15, George Best, like a pretty blonde by herself at a Hollywood nightclub, is approached by a gentleman claiming to be a talent scout. But this scout is not looking for a one-off night of passion. No, he's looking to score. Multiple nights and multiple years of passion and on-the-pitch excitement for one of the all-time great football franchises, Manchester United. By the way, this scout also works part-time as a shipbuilder for the very same company that built the Titanic. How did those guys stay in business? George Best is quickly signed by United's chief scout, Joe Armstrong. No relation to Green Day frontman Billy Joe Armstrong. But the band's hit single, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, does kind of sum up George's start with Man U. After 2 days with the team, George is homesick and retreats back to Northern Ireland. After 2 weeks at home, contemplating his future, and again failing to persuade his dad to legally change his name to anything but
Dick Best,
George returns to Manchester United. By 1963, George shows real ability on the pitch, with pacing, balance, and great two-footedness. Yeah, that's a word, making him difficult to contain. Opponents try tough and dirty tactics to smother the Northern Irishman's gazelle-like movements, but thanks to his manager's fierce, sometimes brutal training sessions, Best embraces the rough play as just another day at the office. In his first full season, Best helps Man U claim the First Division title. It's around this time the English press takes notice of the rising star, boyish good looks and all, ultimately cementing him a tabloid sensation for the rest of his life. At 19, George sees his career rocketed to even greater heights following his 2-goal performance in the European Cup quarter-final against Portuguese powerhouse Benfica. His talent, showmanship, and budding playboy lifestyle lead the Portuguese press to dub the young superstar the Fifth Beatle. When the team returns to England, George's swagger meter is dialed way past 100 when he's photographed wearing this massive sombrero. Today, any athlete spotted wearing a sombrero, unless you're Floyd Mayweather Jr., would be brutally scorched on social media. But in '66, it stamps you as a media darling, with numerous new doors of opportunity suddenly flung wide open for you. Unfortunately for George Best, many of these opportunities, staying with the sombrero theme here, were no bueno. Drugs, Girls, Money, and Liquor is a hit song by American underground rapper Spoons. But it's also the 4 things columnists continue to spot George Best pouring through at a rate many worry will ultimately drown the Northern Irish star. Nonetheless, in 1968, Best turns in the greatest season of his career, once again leading United against Benfica, this time with the European Cup at stake. Just 3 minutes into extra time, Best goes on the maziest of runs, zigzagging past the goalie for an easy roll-in to the net. Following the European Cup win, Best runs away with the coveted Ballon d'Or award, earning him a trifecta of league title champion, European Cup champion, and Player of the Year honors. But with George's celebrity status on the rise, so too does his number of personal demons. Amazingly, Best was very open and willing to deliver the media quotes about his many extracurricular exploits, delivering lines like, "If given the choice between smashing a goal from 30 yards against Liverpool or going to bed with Miss World, it had been a difficult choice. Luckily, I had both." And this, "In '69, I gave up women and alcohol. It was the worst 20 minutes of my life. And I used to go missing a lot. Miss Canada, Miss United Kingdom, Miss World." What a line! No, not the quote. The line of cocaine Best allegedly begins doing before matches in the early 1970s. Some might say, come on, it was the 70s. What's the big deal? No, this behavior, once again, is no bueno. The Playboy lifestyle would finally catch him. George's ability, once considered possibly the best ever, is now in complete freefall. At just 27 years of age, Best abruptly leaves United.
George Best, you've had a night to think about it. Are you still definitely quitting football?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
You've been at Manchester United since you were a teenager. What are your feelings about leaving the club?
Obviously, a little sad, but I've made a decision. I think it's the right one.
Best abruptly leaves United for a short-lived retirement before eventually embarking on a jumbled 10-year odyssey of stints, playing everywhere from Hong Kong to Los Angeles, Ireland to Australia. As great as his runs on the pitch, the aging star is never able to outrun his demons, as alcoholism, controversy, and arrests seem to always trot just a few paces behind him. Just as drugs and alcohol robbed Best of his career, so too did it ultimately rob him of his life. He passes away in 2005 due to drug-related complications. George Best was 59. It's difficult, but if you can see past the media stories and the alcohol and the scantily clad women, well, actually, who knows, some could have been respectfully clad. But if you look past all of that, what you're left with is a man who truly loved the game and felt safest when playing it. Best was a man who even later in life found himself attending many Manchester games simply as a fan. A football genius, witty as ever, and still reliable for one-of-a-kind quotes about the top Man U stars of the day. Turns out, Best was very low on David Beckham, but quite high on a lot of things, but very high on CR7. Once quoted saying, "Over the years, many players have been described as the next George Best. But with Cristiano Ronaldo, it's the first time it's been a compliment to me." And on David Beckham, George did not disappoint, saying, "Beckham cannot kick, he cannot head a ball, he cannot tackle, and he doesn't score many goals. But apart from that, he's all right." In closing, George Best, while on the pitch, was indeed one of the best.
Beautiful football by George Best.
And wow, still can't believe his dad's name was Dick Best. Unreal!